Okay, so the next section that we're going to look at is we're going to look at chapter 1, and we're going to get a little bit deeper with manipulating some commands and moving around in AutoCAD a little bit more, and then creating some things. Okay, so first things first, what we're going to do is we are going to get back into AutoCAD. So I did close my AutoCAD out from my previous example. So I am going to go back in. Where's my AutoCAD? Oh, there it is. It's on my Cardinal. Yep. Thank you. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to go back in. Just as an extra practice, going back in, we're going to hit that open or the new button. So we're going to up to File, New, and we're going to use, hopefully it's the default, but if not, grab that AutoCAD or ACAD template, and you're just going to hit Open. Okay. Now we're going to turn the page. We're going to be on 1-4. Okay. So as we go around here, a couple things. We had noted this earlier when we were in our session. You're going to notice that it's going to default to that drawing one. That's just a generic file that it opens for you. You can save it as drawing one if that's what you want to call it. But again, we're going to probably use that save as and then save it for what it's going to be a little bit later. But right now we're going to leave it there because we're just going to play around for a little bit. Bless you. Now is a good time to look up here and over on the right-hand side where we see that horizontal line with the down arrow. If your menu buttons are not here, if the extra row of File, Edit, View, Insert, does everybody still have those? Okay. Yeah. If it's not, remember, we're going to go to the down arrow and you want to show menu bar, which is the second one from the bottom. Okay. All right. So if they're there, that's good. We are in good place. And then we're going to, and it should be defaulted also to the home menu or the home ribbon. So we have, we're going to be focusing up in this upper right-hand corner. We did the coordinate display. So down here in the middle, you should be seeing when you move your cursor, those coordinates moving around. So the coordinates that we see here are the X, Y, and Z coordinates for where our cursor is on the screen, okay? So you're gonna notice here that the first two, so the X and the Y, X is horizontal Cartesian coordinates, Y is vertical Cartesian coordinates, and Z would be in and out of the screen. Now, since we are in what we call a 2D mode, two-dimensional mode, we're only worrying about X and Y coordinates. We're not going in and out of the screen. We're not making a 3D model, for instance, okay? So those coordinates, the X and the Y are gonna move, but notice that our Z stays at 0 because we're staying like if you would, a piece of paper or just on that surface of that screen, okay? So everybody see the coordinates down there? Right, well. Now, what we always want to do before we start drawing, we want to make sure that our units are appropriate. Now, the template that we chose, ACAD, is a standard English unit template, but it's always good to double check. So we're going to go to that application menu. We're going to select once. We're going to go down to drawing utilities. And then we're going to go up to units on that flyout menu. Okay. I haven't clicked anything yet, but now we're going to click on units. And now this pop-up menu comes up. And we're just going to kind of see what's out here. First of all, right in the middle, we want to make sure that it's the units that we want to work with. And in this case, it's inches. And we do want to work with inches for what we're going to be doing. If you wanted to change it, for instance, to metric, you would just arrow down or to other units that you see here. You certainly can. Okay. But inches is what we're looking for. So I'm just going to click over on the left-hand side. We also have the opportunity to change the type of dimensions that we have here. So there's architectural dimension or a decimal, engineering, fractional, and scientific. We will always be in decimal, always, all right, for both metric and English, okay? And then the precision here. So when we put our values in, we're going to notice that there's going to be decimals or not. You can put as many decimals as you want. Accuracy-wise, AutoCAD holds, I think, up to 13 decimal places, although you're not going to show that for everything that you have. So depending on what you're interested in, I mean, I think I like to stick around right around 4. I think that's pretty good. You could put in 5 if you wanted to, but or less. But for the most part, for English units, especially if we're converting from fractional, 4 can do us pretty good. Okay. And then for an angle, usually we don't have any decimals with that, but you could put 1 or 2, but it's usually none. So I'm going to hit OK because everything looks good there. And I verified that those are inch dimensions. All right. So that takes us, we're going to turn the page. This is going to be on, I'm going to go back underneath. Oops. So we just finished up at the top here of page 1.6. Okay. So now I'm going to scooch down and we're going to look at the drawing area setup. Okay. I kind of toyed with showing you guys this or not, but it's in here. And I think it's good to show it to you, especially with those coordinates. I think it does make sense, but this isn't something that you're always going to have to do, but I think it's good practice. So what we're going to set up here is, as you can imagine, when you have different sizes of elements that you're drawing, whether they're 10 inches long or they're a ½ inch long. Okay. If you draw it on the screen, sometimes it can be really little or it can be really big. Okay. So what you can do is you can set up your screen limits so that it's already zoomed to an appropriate size. Okay. Again, you can draw something and you can zoom in and out. So I don't find myself doing this very often, but I think it's good for just kind of getting used to the environment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to AutoCAD. What we're going to do is we're going to go up to Format, and we are going to go down to Drawing Limits. Okay. And the drawing limits, it's kind of like setting the size of paper that we want on our drawings, on our computer screen. That's what we're going to do. So drawing limits. And what it's asking for now, this is what I'm going to say to you. Let's look at the command line. We don't know these commands yet. So the command line is going to guide us for what the command is looking for. So if we look down here, it says limits, specify the lower left corner. So I'm going to specify the lower left-hand corner. So if I take, if you would, a piece of paper, all right, I'm putting it on my screen. I'm going to go this way. My lower left-hand corner is right here, on your computer screen. Okay. I want that to be in our book here, the tutorial is saying we're going to put that at 0, 0, okay, of the screen. So our left-hand corner is going to be 0, 0. So we're going to put those coordinates as 0, 0. Now, something that AutoCAD does, and we'll see this consistent in other commands as well, you're going to notice that they have like these V brackets on either side. So down here in the command line, we see 0.4 decimal places of 0, comma, 0. So the first one is our X coordinate. The second one is our Y coordinate. And it's in those like triangle or brackety things. Okay. That means that is the default. And if I hit enter right now, we can accept those values, or we can type in and we can change it. Since 0, 0 is what I want to do, I'm just simply going to hit enter. Okay. So that's the lower left-hand corner. It's at 0, 0 on my screen. Okay. Now notice that the command line changed. It's looking for something else again, okay? And it says, okay, specify the upper right-hand corner. So if this was the lower left, this is the upper right. So how big do I want my paper to be? And here they wanted us to set it up as we want to go over 12 and up 9. So it's kind of taking an 8.5 by 11 and a little bit more, as our screen, okay? So I am going to put in here 12, comma, 9. So as you know, when you have positive values in the X value, that means like from our 0, that's in a positive or to the right direction. If it's positive in the Y, it's up. If they're negative in the X, it's going to the left. If it's negative in the Y, it's going down. So those classic Cartesian coordinates. So 12 in the X, positive, up and to the right, and then up 9. And then we're simply going to hit enter. And you see nothing happen. Okay, you don't. But now what we're going to do is we're going to zoom our screen so that this fits on our screen. Okay, so that fits on our screen. So how do I do that? What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you pull out a menu. Okay, a menu bar. I already have mine pulled out here. Okay, and I'm going to kind of bring it down in the graphics area. This is like a nice zoom menu to use. Otherwise, we always have to go up into the I forget which one it is. I think it's view. We have to go up and then you hit the zoom and you have to kind of go a couple of things. So we're going to pull the icon out. I'm going to show you how to do that. They don't have you do that in our tutorial. So we're going to go to tools. Okay. Tools. And then there's toolbars. I'm not clicking yet. I'm just hovering over. And then I'm going to go out to AutoCAD. Again, hovering, I'm not picking. And now this is the list of the toolbars that I have available to me. Now you guys are on a desktop. You might see the whole toolbar. I have to scroll down. There's a little arrow at the bottom here. And the one that I want you to pull out and click is Zoom. Okay. Now, you can just left click anywhere, away on the screen, hit escape if you click something, okay? And you should have this menu bar pop up somewhere, okay? Probably right underneath the ribbon. Does everybody locate that little thing? Now, I can't really zoom in, but over on the left-hand side of that toolbar, there's like these little dots, okay? What you're gonna do is you're gonna left click on those dots and you're gonna drag to wherever you want it to be. And I kind of put it right underneath my ribbon right about there to kind of dock it, okay? All right. Now, on that ribbon, the two on the end are my most used. The one on the very end is called Zoom Extents. If you hover over it without clicking on it, do you notice it gives you a description? You're going to notice that with all of the commands. So if you're wondering what one of those pictures means, just hover over it, all right? And it's gonna tell you what it is. So this is Zoom Extents. Click on Zoom Extents, okay? Now, if you have that little gritty thing on the background of your screen, you're gonna notice that those grids just got bigger, okay? Because basically we zoomed in, all right? Now, it's not gonna be perfect, but all we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of test our coordinates here. So if we go down to the lower left-hand corner and we put our, cursor down there, is it looking like that's about 0, 0-ish? I mean, it might be negative something because remember, they're taking this piece of paper and they're fitting it to the scale of your screen. So your screen is probably bigger than the piece of paper, but down over the left-hand side, you should be 0s-ish and negatives maybe, okay? If you go in the upper right-hand corner-ish, you should start seeing numbers that are like 12,9 or close to that. Do you see that kind of happening? Okay. So all we did was we zoomed to the coordinates that we put in for the drawing limits, they call it, or I like to say it's my piece of paper that I'm drawing on, okay? All this does is it gets us into the proximity so that you're not zooming super in and out when you're starting a drawing. That's all, okay? All right, so that's drawing limits, and we started with our Zoom Extents with us for that first one. Now, the next thing is you'll notice that real lightly in the background here, do you see there's kind of like a grid? Some people like that, some people don't. I really don't like it. I don't follow the grid lines. I end up, creating geometry wherever I want to create it. But some people kind of like it. Some people like when you draw on a piece of paper and you've got those grid lines in the back, or you like, when you write, you like the lines, in a notebook rather than just on, a plain piece of paper. So you can turn those on and off, okay? And the quick way to do it is down here at that bottom menu. You'll notice that is like a grid looking icon. I'm just gonna click it off. And now my screen doesn't have those on. Personal preference. If you like that, leave it on. All right, no problem. It's not gonna hurt anything if it's there. It's not gonna really help you much if it's not, but some people like to have it. Okay. You can also do it with the F7 key. It toggles on and off as well. So if you find the F7 key, you're gonna notice that you can hit that. That's a quick command for doing that. All right, let's draw a line, okay? So if we turn the page and we go to page 1-8, what we're gonna do, the bottom of page 1-8, we're gonna draw a star, okay? You're gonna notice our star has number 1 here. This is gonna be the first point that we lay down. And then we're gonna go up to number 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're gonna go back down to 1, okay? Now, I'm gonna go over to AutoCAD. It's gonna be our plan. Now, as I said earlier, whenever I want to engage a command, I want to tell it what command I want to do first. So don't start clicking on the screen right now, all right? What you need to do is you need to tell AutoCAD, I want to draw a line. The line is going to be the very first command on our ribbon in the upper left-hand corner here, okay? And if you hover over it without clicking, it's going to tell you that's the line command, okay? That's one way to enact the line command. As I said earlier, another way is to do L, enter, okay? Now remember, enter key is the enter key, the space bar, or you can do it with your right mouse button, okay? So I'm going to hit the icon up there. All right. You don't have to do anything separate. And now I am in the line command. How do I know I'm in the line command? Look at your command line. Your command line tells you line, specify first point. All right. Doesn't look much different, but you also notice that there's some wording here. Okay. Do you guys have the wording next to your icon? Yeah. That's called a dynamic like input. Okay. So it's basically kind of, instead of having to look around the screen, they added this some time ago. I can have basically my commands right by where I'm doing my work. Okay. So command line says, whether it's down at the bottom or next to your cursor, says you want to specify your first point. Okay. Now I can put this in a couple different ways. All right. I can put it in coordinates. Okay. So I could put in 0, 0 would be my first point. And then I could do another, whatever the values would be, and input each one of the points based on their coordinates. Okay. But that would take kind of a long time. All right. So how we're going to do it is we're just going to simply click on the screen. Okay. So that's going to be our first experience. When we want to be more accurate, we are going to engage using coordinates at times. Okay. But for right now, just to kind of get used to it, we're going to go right about here on our screen. Okay. And we're going to left click. Okay. Do not drag. It's a click. Okay. So don't left click and drag up and to the right. It's a left click and release. And then you're going to notice that you now have the endpoint of this line. It wants to know now, it says, okay, specify your next point. That's what your command line says. Okay. So to specify your next point, kind of look at, where 2 should be, and you're going to left click again. Do not drag, just click and let go. All right. Now it wants to know what the next point is. Now, in this case, for our star, I want to have a horizontal line. Now, if you don't do horizontal, that's okay. But if you go close to horizontal, do you notice that it kind of locks into a horizontal position? It's kind of a nice little feature, right? Because a lot of times AutoCAD knows you probably want to be horizontal and vertical a lot. So when you are locked into that vertical, that means it's going to snap to that line. Okay. If you don't want to snap to a line like that, then you just pull off of it and then it goes away. Okay. But I do. So I'm going to go over here. That's going to be my second point. And then my third point, or I'm sorry, my fourth point is going to be down about here in the middle. And then we're going to go close to our first point. Once we get close to our first point, we can close this one of 2 ways. Do you guys have this little green box that's trying to get there? That's called an endpoint snap. It's snapping to the endpoint of that line. You know that you have it engaged. And when it's green like that, if you click, it's going to automatically go there. When we are doing any type of geometry in any CAD system, you want to have your corners meeting perfectly. You don't want to be close, okay? So object snaps are going to be something that we're going to be engaging in a lot. So you can click it there. The other thing you can do is if you know that this is a closed loop and this is the last point you want to go to, you can just close it by doing C, enter, and it's going to close that loop and end the line command, okay? If you end with it the endpoint, okay, it's going to want to go to another point. Do one of 2 things. Either hit the escape key to get done, to end that command, or the enter key. Either one of those will end that line command. Okay. So did everybody have a nice looking star on their screen? Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to take the middle mouse button, which is the roller. You're going to press it down and you're going to push it over to the left. Drag and push over. So we're panning over to the left. And then you're going to release. Okay. All right. Just to kind of get it out of the way. All right. It's fun, wasn't it? Okay. The next thing we're going to do, so we're going to go over to pages 110 and 111. And we're gonna put grid and snap back on just to kind of do a comparison here. So we did this, I'm going to say kind of like freehand. Okay. We did have a little bit of help with that horizontal line, snapping to it. But other than that, we kind of put it in there by ourselves. So down at the bottom here, I'm going to turn my grid back on. Remember, it was down at the bottom here next to the word model. And then right next to it, to the right, there is called snap mode. Okay. Snap mode. Now, this is going to be the one time I do this with you guys. I want you to see what this is. And they do reference it once in a while in the book. And some people like this as a drawing aid. But even if you use it at first, you're going to probably try to start gravitating away from it. But I want you to show you what it's all about. So snap is going to be where we have divisions here on our grid, and it's going to snap to those divisions. You can't pick anywhere in between the divisions. You can only snap to the divisions. Now, you can set the size of your divisions by going to this arrow key next to that snap, and you want to go to snap settings. Okay, snap settings. So notice that the check mark says snap is on because we have our button toggled on. Okay. And grid is also on. We have that toggled on down at the bottom. Now, notice here that it says your snap spacing. So that means that I'm only going to be able to click on points that are 1/2 inch apart horizontally and 1/2 inch apart vertically. Okay. Now, if you know that all of your dimensions on a drawing are horizontal and vertical, and they're all to the 1/2 inch or the 1/4 inch or whatever, you could set this up and then kind of, march around and do it. So for kind of simple geometry, it works pretty good. Okay. It works really good. So you can change those values. We're going to leave them as is. Okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to redo our star. And I want to show you kind of how that feels and what that looks like when we do that. So I'm just going to hit OK here. And we're going to go back up to our line. We're going to click on it. And now when you move that cursor, do you see how it jumps only to the grid marks? Okay. That's what it's going to do. You're not going to be able to go in between them. So you want to pick your first point. So just pick it, wherever. Go up and to the right to point 2, over to 3, down to 4, up to 5. And then I'm going to do C and then enter to close. Okay. So you kind of feel that difference. All right. That's what snap does. And again, you usually it goes along with grid, and then you can kind of get that visual with it as well. All right. You may like it. You may not. It's there. All right. That's all that we're going to do. And I'm going to turn it off. All right. So I'm going to turn mine back off. I don't like it. I don't mind it. I know how it works, but it's okay. All right. Now we're going to jump over to 113 in your book. And we're looking at the erase command, okay? The erase command. The erase command is going to be in the modified portion of our ribbon. So still on our home ribbon here, you're going to notice that there's a pencil with an eraser. That's the erase command, okay? So if I click on the erase command, notice that my cursor, when I'm down in the graphics area, changes, okay? Now, it wants me to select something to erase, okay? Now, I can singly select something. So I can take that pick box is what we call it, and I'm going to just hover over an element, and I can, once it's grayed out, I can select it. Just a single click, okay? Don't drag. And I can go to a separate one, and I can single click. All right. And once I've selected everything that I want to delete, okay, I simply hit enter. Okay. Your command line just will allow you to keep selecting. And I'm going to hit enter. Okay. Now let's say, oh, I didn't want to do that. There's the undo key. All right. There's 2 ways that we can do the undo key. The undo is right here with this arrow. Okay. So I can do the undo there. All right. I'm going to do a redo. Or I can hit U, enter, and that's the undo key as well. Okay, so if you're I kind of like working on the quick commands, U, enter is undo, or you can go up here to that backwards arrow. Okay, all right. Now that's one way to erase or select items. There's other ways. We can select with a window. Okay, so I'm going to enact that erase command again. And now I'm going to start in my upper left-hand corner of my window, and I'm going to go down to a lower right. When I do my window, do not drag. Do not drag. It's going to be a click in the upper left-hand corner and release, and a click in the lower right-hand corner and release. So I'm going to start up here, click, and notice that it's not selecting until I have full items in my pick box. Okay. Once I have everything in there, I can left click again. So when I start at the upper left and go to the bottom right, that means that any full items that are in that box are going to be deleted and selected. Okay. And then the whole thing is going to be gone. All right. If I want to undo that, I'm going to do U, enter, back. The other way that I can use the erase key in a window, so I'm going to do the erase again, but I'm going to start in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to click, don't drag. I'm going to click, and then notice that every time I get a portion of an entity, one of these lines, a portion of the line in my box, it selects the whole line. You see that? Okay. So if I start, I can go right about here, and I don't have to have the whole star in there anymore. I can just left click and the whole star is selected. So starting in the down in the lower right, going upper left, you're going to select anything that crosses that line. If you go upper left down, it has to be all in the box. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And then it's gone. The other way that you can erase, if anybody's been dragging their mouse, you've seen this. So dragging your mouse, you can left click and drag. Okay. I don't like this one. I just don't like it. Anything, if you start in the upper left hand, it has to be fully in there. And I can never get it to really be what I want it to be, but anything that then goes in there. But if you start at the bottom and go, then it's like any portion, and then release can go in. So whenever you start in the upper right, the full item has to be in the box, or whatever that thing is called, or in the lower right, you go up, and then just a portion of it has to be in there. Okay. I'm going to do undo again and undo again. Undo remembers all the commands that you've done, and it will sequentially go backwards. So you can go back all the way to the beginning of the session, okay, or the last time that you saved, and you can undo what you did, okay? All right. So if you ever kind of get to a point you're like, oh crap, I did a bunch of things in order that I don't like, you can undo, 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 undo to get back. Yes. You know what? That's if we move our command line up and we expand this, you can see what we just did. Yeah, good question. Good question. So the question was, can you see, what you did? Okay, yes, you can. And then you can see what the commands are that you would be undoing. Yeah. And then if you wanted to see more of that command line, yeah, these are going to be kind of the backwards order of, yeah. I usually just need what I have there, but that's good. Yeah, thank you for that question. Any others? Okay, so good. So good. Oh, another really handy command, it's not really a command, but it's a way to do this. So let's say I erase something. Okay, I'm going to erase just one thing, and I'm going to hit enter and erase. And I'm like, oh, I want to erase another thing. Instead of going back up and picking erase again, I can hit enter, and it's going to always redo the last command that I just did. Okay, so in this case, it was erase. So notice that I'm back into my erase command, so I can continue to select. Okay, enter. All right. If I do a line command, I'm just going to do a random line command here, and I'm going to hit escape, and I want to do another line. I just hit enter, and I'm back in the line command, and I can do a new line then, wherever I want it to go. Okay. So enter will repeat the last command that I just did without having to reselect it. Okay. It's a lot. There's a lot of different things. It's a powerful software. So good. Okay. Cartesian coordinates. Let's do a little review of that in our book here. So we're going to find that there are 5 different ways that we can input information into AutoCAD. Okay. The first ones are going to be entering their coordinates. And there's 2 different types of coordinate systems that we can put in. There can be either Cartesian coordinates. So that's going to be our X, Y values. Again, we're only working in 2D, so we're not worried about the Z axis, the in and the out. So we're only going to be in X and Y. Whenever we put in Cartesian coordinates, X is going to be the first value and Y is going to be the second value. Now, knowing where we're at, we know that by convention, anything to the right of our origin is going to be a positive value in the X, right? And if I move to the left in that direction, that would be a negative X direction, right? Okay, so positive to the right, negative to the left. So if I'm putting in a coordinate, I want to move to the left of where I'm at, I have to put a negative in front of whatever value I'm going to be putting in. Okay, same thing in the Y. For the Y direction, up is positive and down is negative. Okay, So if I want to move up in the Y direction, it's going to be a positive value. Positive is assumed. We don't have to put a positive in front of any of our numbers, but negative is not. We have to put a minus in front. Okay. Familiar math, other applications of X, Y coordinates, right? Okay. Now, again, we're not worrying about Z. The other type of input that we can put in is going to be what we call polar coordinates, okay? Polar coordinates. So polar coordinates are where we're going to give it how long of a line, and then what is the angle that we're going to be going at, okay? And the direction of the angle, when I input my angle, it will be in a counterclockwise direction is positive. If I wanted to go clockwise, it's going to be negative. And that's really, you know, if we think of this as our standard zero, this is 90 degrees, we would go positive 90 in this direction all the way around, and then it would be negative 90 going in that direction, okay? Which again goes along with the standard Cartesian coordinate system, okay? Now, there are two different ways that we can put coordinates in, absolute and relative. So absolute coordinates are where we're referencing the 0, 0 on the drawing, okay? So when we set up our drawing limits earlier, our 0, 0 is right where this is right here. If we put our cursor over that XY, like little coordinate thing, and we get really close in there, we're going to find that that's our 0, 0, okay? So if I put a coordinate in X2, comma, Y2, all right, it's going to go up and to the right, and it's going to go 2 units over to the right, 2 units up from 0, 0 on my screen. Absolute values, okay? Absolute values. So that would mean that I would have to know, whoopsie, what all the coordinates are from that 0, 0 point for anything that I wanted to do, okay? Sometimes I want to go from where I'm at. I'm like, okay, I'm here. Now I want to, from here, go 2 over and 2 up, okay? Maybe I'm not down at the 0, 0. I'm like here, and I want to go up 2 and over 2, all right? To do that, we just have to add the @ symbol in front of the coordinates. By putting the @ symbol in place, we let the system know that we're going relative to the point that I'm on right now, not back to the 0, 0 absolute value, okay? So we're going to be practicing in the pages coming up, working with those absolute and relative input points, okay? So we're going to see the @ symbol, @ symbol. So this is defining position, interactive mode. Interactive mode of inputting where my coordinates are is going to be just clicking on the screen, okay? And clicking on the screen, I will have a coordinate. So if I hover over, for instance, the endpoint of any one of my lines, and I read my coordinates down at the bottom of the screen, that's where it's at in relationship to the 0, 0 that I set earlier for my drawing limits, okay? And if I move it, new coordinates, new coordinates, new coordinates. So anywhere on the screen, I can identify where I'm at in the X and Y. And then when I click, that's just interactive mode, okay? I'm just putting my points down. Then you're going to notice the next way is that absolute coordinates, relative coordinates, all right? And relative is with the @ symbol, so it gives us that format here. Without is the absolute, referencing that 0, 0. Then we have relative polar coordinates, okay? So here again, we're going to have the @ symbol, but the distance is going to be how long the line is going to be. And then we're going to use the, I call it the angle symbol, okay? But it's the, I guess it would be the greater than symbol. Yeah, greater than symbol. And then after that, we're going to be putting in the angle. Positive angles go counterclockwise from where we're at. Negative angles are going to go clockwise, right? I'll put that there. So positive equals counterclockwise, negative equals clockwise. And then the next one is direct distance entry technique. And that's another, I'll be showing you that. That's when we move our cursor along in a direction and we enter how long we want that line to be. That's the most popular one, I'll tell you. Okay, that's the one I use most. Okay. All right. Now, on page 119, this is going to start our first practice problem. Okay, so I'm going to stop our recording here. And then we're going to, when we come back, then we'll start the guide plate tutorial for our first practice problem.